Hello and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping into a sour beer from the Brewing Projekt. I've reviewed quite a few of these before, but it's been a while. This specific one is called Blumpearry Puff Tart. It is a sour that clocks in at 4.86%, quite precise there, brewed with plum, pear, blueberry, vanilla, and lactose, hence the name. The Brewing Projekt is based in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So label art, as per usual, it's very bright and festive and shows kind of cartoon versions of the fruit that are in there. Kind of get you in the mood, blueberries, plums, and pears. Sounds like a really good combination to me. I'm actually really looking forward to this. So let's get this cracked gently. All right. Poured right in the glass. Oh yeah, that is a really, really nice looking beer. Very purpley red. It almost looks like a framboise lambic. Pouring it into the glass here. It looks quite nice. Now, I have noticed this on theirs. I'm guessing it's due to the thickness from the lactose addition. Their sours do tend to form a bit of a head at the beginning, but it's quickly going to get essentially out of the way. Maybe a little bit of cling on the sides. But let's hold this up. Yeah, visually, very, very dark purple. Very, very nice looking beer. Let's get over for a proper sniff. Oh, wow. That smells absolutely incredible. That mix of blueberry, plum, and pear is really, it sounded good to me, but it smells so good. I have a really good sense of what I'm going to get into when I jump into this in the glass. And yeah, that underlying vanilla, you can't pick that up on the aroma as well. So head basically out of the way. A little cling on the sides, but it looks great. It smells great. Very active, effervescent. Let's just jump right in, see what this one's about. Oh, man. What a great combination of flavors. That's so good. That's so good. Okay, so first thing I noticed right away, as is typical with these Puff Tart beers from the Brewing Projekt, while they have lower ABVs, they are sours, the body is really significantly weightier than your average sour. These have lactose in them, and it just makes it a little bit bigger. Something about the lactose addition helps to thicken it up. This is no exception. It's got a definitely weightier body. I'd say it's a full round medium, easy, which is not that common for a sour. On the mouthfeel front, most sours tend to feel relatively non-viscous, very active in terms of carbonation you can feel on the palate. This one feels a good bit thicker. It's got some quality resistance to it. Similar to the body being more weighty, the mouth feels a bit thicker and more viscous and more resistant. In tandem with that, when you agitate around the palate, instead of just feeling flat like your average sour, this one gets very silky, very creamy. Really thickens up and just, it's silky, silky smooth. So body and mouthfeel definitely different than your average sour on these Puff Tart beers. This one is no exception. In terms of the flavor, big, bold, absolutely delicious. I'm going to jump back in and have another sip here to really pick out kind of the order of operations. But before I do, I've been talking for about a minute now since my sip, and I can tell you, same as with most of these, they're not like your average sour in terms of intensity of dryness on the palate, and it does take a while to finally get there, but there is this little bit of a drying, mostly on the tip of my tongue is where I get it on these beers. This is no exception. So it does have a little bit of a dryness, but it's not like drinking a Brut Huza or something like that. It's just a different style. This very fruit forward, playing with the lactose to let this fruit really pop, and the vanilla that just pairs so well. So let's jump back in for flavor development, get the order of operations, see what else I pick up on the intensification of flavor. Very, very tasty. You get the plum up front, pear behind that, blueberry behind that. That's the order of operations. Plum, pear, blueberry. After a few seconds, when those flavors are mingling together, maybe around the 5-second mark, is where that vanilla starts to come in, and it's subtle. It adds almost like this creaminess to it. Kind of like the Anchorage Brewing Beyond Repair IPA I reviewed the other day. It gives this impression of fruit and cream. That's really what the vanilla does in here. It adds that underlying richness to it that just pairs so well with these bright, poppy fruit flavors because of that lactose. It tastes like the actual fruit. It's very juicy, very fruity. Absolutely delicious beer. In terms of the actual sour and tartness of it, there's a little bit up front, but this is not a sour that's going to scare away people that really aren't that into sours, don't like that kind of flavor profile in a beer. This is a lot more sweet than it is sour. It's a lot more tart than it is sour. Sour is just the slightest real quick bite, then it works almost into this candy-like, almost like a Jolly Rancher or Sweet Tarts, or mixing the two of them together. That's what this is like in beer form. It is absolutely delicious. I always love these, and they're always coming up with interesting and fun kind of combination of fruit to throw into them. Man, I really hope they keep making these really, really delicious beer. I'm going to take my time, sip on this, go up my scores. When we come back, we'll get this one ranked from top to bottom. Okay, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This is the Brewing Projekt's Blumpearry Puff Tart. It is a sour beer, clocking in at 4.86% ABV, brewed with plum, pear, blueberry, vanilla, and lactose. The Brewing Projekt is based in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So starting with the aroma on this was really nice. It's not one of those that has quite as forward of a sour and tart pungency or any Brettanomyces in it or anything like that to really kick it right out of the glass. You have to get right up on it, but when you do, you can smell it quite clearly. Could pick up all of the additive ingredient aromas. Smelled absolutely amazing. Overall, the aroma, above average. It gets a 7 out of 10. For the taste on this beer was absolutely incredible. Plum, pear, blueberry together, just a wonderful flavor combination. That vanilla added a nice bit of rich creaminess, almost like a fruit and cream, and the lactose really helped add that sweetness kick to the beer to let the fruit actually taste like the actual fruit. It was just beautiful. Taste gets a perfect 10 out of 10. For the body, significantly larger than your average sour, but it's got that lactose addition. And this is common with these Puff Tart beers from the Brewing Projekt. I've noticed this. It was exactly where I expected it to be. The body, excellent. Gets a 10 out of 10. The mouthfeel is a very similar story to the body. Body and mouthfeel obviously go very hand in hand. They're related, though they're not always the same. Sometimes there's a wide gap between them. But for this one, it kind of followed that same trend. Got a lot thicker, more resistant mouthfeel than your average sour, but because of what it is, it felt right for what it is. And again, it's exactly what I expected. Mouthfeel gets a 10 out of 10. For the finish on this was nice. There was good overall pungency of the ingredients and the flavors in the beer, and it was really, really flavorful to be certain. And it was longer than average, but it didn't have quite that normal, massive punch of sour and tart to really help extend the length out longer. It was kind of riding on just the intensity of the overall fruit flavors, but it was above average. Finish gets a 7 out of 10. For the head and retention, this one tried to form one at the beginning. It's a thicker beer. This is what they do, but just as I expect from any sour, no matter what kind of interesting twist and turn, it shouldn't have a head. This one did not, and it's exactly what I expected. The head retention gets a 10 out of 10. For the appearance, this was a stunningly beautiful beer. With the addition of plum, I did expect it to be a nice, deep, true purple, and it was that. Appearance gets a 10 out of 10. For the balance on this beer was just exceptional. Honestly, all of these Puff Tart beers in the Brewing Projekt's line, they're all a little bit different, but the one thing I can say is the balance on them, they really do a great job. I don't know if they actively seek to add the identical amounts of each of their additive ingredients, especially on the fruit end, but it paid dividends. You could taste everything equally, had its own voice, worked beautifully together. I wouldn't have changed a thing. Balance does get a perfect 10 out of 10. Feeling in the intangible, subjectively, I absolutely loved it. it gets a 10 out of 10 there, which brings us to our final category example of the style. For a fruited sour with a lactose addition, frankly, it doesn't get much better than these Puff Tart beers from the Brewing Projekt. Example of the style does get a 10 out of 10, which brings the total score on the Brewing Projekt's Blumpearry Puff Tart to a 94 out of 100. So this is well above average. Honestly, guys, it's just about as good as it gets. If you like sours, maybe you crave a little more intensity of sour tart, that's fine. But if you also like fruited sours or fruited beers in general, or maybe you don't really care for super pungently sour and tart beers, this is one to get your hands on. The flavors are absolutely incredible. They really do a great job coming up with interesting flavor combinations and getting it right in their beers. And this is just a perfect case example of why you should be keeping your eyes out for these Puff Tart beers from the Brewing Projekt. This one, just another slam dunk. Folks, that's today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help the channel. If you want to know when our videos drop, you can turn on the notifications. Just hit the bell icon. It's right next to the subscribe button. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.